Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome to the Midlife Revolution. Happy Saturday. It's Saturday, March 29th, about 4:40 p.m. Central Time. And I just wanted to share with you the final trial management conference information ahead of Lori Vallow Daybell's Arizona conspiracy trial, which starts with jury selection on Monday. Opening statements are scheduled to begin on Monday, April 7th. Provided that jury selection goes well this weekend. So if you're joining me for the first time, welcome to the channel. I am Lori Vallow Daybell's first cousin, Megan Connor, and I share things about the family in relation to her case. She is going to be standing trial for conspiracy in the death of her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. And that's coming up. So that is what I'm sharing with you today, is just the final trial conference. They had this last week. It was not televised. They did not have, I don't believe they had a camera in the courtroom during this conference. So I'm just going to go over with you the document that actually Joe Schmo shared with me. And it should be a pretty quick read through. I don't think there's going to be anything crazy like what happened when Joe Schmo and I were on last time and went through all of her motions. So let's go ahead and just read the document here as it is. Hello, Tony Hoban, Dogman, Nicole, Jewel Gazer, Lou, Librarians, Kim Dodd, Crafty Chris, Shannon Porter, Northwest, Zero, Diane L, Susie Rutman, Morgan Mann, Travel Flower, you were the first. Good to see everybody. Thank you for being here. Please like the episode so that it will get out on the algorithm. Hi, Kelly Green. Hi, Lila. Good to see you. I'm reading this document directly from my Patreon. I actually posted it to my Patreon a couple of days ago. Hey, Janelle. Hey, Debbie. Hi, Diane. Good to see you guys. So I just posted this on my Patreon a couple of days ago. Joe Schmo shared this with me. He's been paying to have the to do the FOIA document downloads, and so he was kind enough to share this with me. So this basically just says that the conference started at 8:20 a.m. This was on the 18th. So this is just it wasn't filed till the 27th, but this is just a recap of what was discussed at that conference. The state's attorney was there, the advisory attorneys were there, and Lori was present. And basically what they discussed, it says the court informs the parties, sorry, trying to get the zoom down correctly, that the trial will be held in courtroom 5D of the South Court Tower. The court provides the parties with proposed juror questionnaire. Discussion is held regarding the same. The court shall modify question 15 of the proposed juror questionnaire to include any supplemental names that may arise during trial. The parties anticipate about 21 days of trial with about 1 week for jury selection. And so really they're thinking this is going to wrap up the first week in May, because so they'll do jury selection this coming week, and then they'll have 2 weeks of trial. The fourth week in April, court is going to be in recess because the judge and also the prosecutor have conflicts during that entire week. So the first week of April the first week of May should be the last day for this trial, and then jury selection can begin in the Brandon Boudreaux trial. Discussion is held regarding the state's notice of compliance with discovery, with disclosures of January 31st, 2019 recordings. This is the recording that Lori's been asking for this whole time, which we've said we don't think exists, that overhead camera footage of her interview in the Chandler Police Department. And so I'm guessing that what the state filed was the notice that they have complied with the disclosures and the discovery as they were supposed to, and they've provided everything that they believe that they have. Hi, everybody. Just checking back in to comments. Yeah, and I've heard that there's not going to be court on Fridays as well, so that makes things a little bit easier for me. I can fly back on Thursdays. And yes, about 4.5 actual court hours per day, as they'll go in the morning, and then they'll have a lunch break, And then they usually try to end court around 3 p.m. or so. So we'll see how that goes. Hi, Kara J. Thanks to all of my members. Thanks to all my Patreon members who are supporting over there. Thanks for being here, you guys. The defendant informs the court that she has not received prior files and documents from her previous defense team. Discussion is held regarding the same. The court shall issue detail orders in a separate minute entry directing the prior defense team to provide defendant and advisory counsel copies of the defendant's file. The discussion is held regarding defendant's pro per supplemental rule 5.2 notice of defenses and disclosures. Let the record reflect that defendant's investigator, Jeff White, is present in the courtroom and addresses the court. Discussion is held regarding the state's discovery disclosure and defendant's request to review his cell phone and Chandler Police Department evidence and untimely disclosures. Further discussion is held regarding state's Rule 609 motion and defendant's right to testify at trial. The court will address the 609 issue during trial. Further discussion is held regarding the state's regarding trial presentation logistics and schedule, including future dates for the defendant's next trial. The court further reiterates that the remote e-questionnaire will be sent out March 24th and March 27th. The parties will meet on March 31st, that's Monday, to discuss strikes for cause and hardship. In-person voir dire shall occur April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 2025. Then discussion is held regarding the defendant's request for reviewing Chandler Police Department discovery extractions and chain of custody implications. And then the final page on this, it is ordered affirming the trial date of March 31st, 2025 at 10:30 a.m. It is ordered that no time be excluded. Last day remains May 11th, 2025. However, it'll be necessary to exclude additional time in the next case because the parties cannot complete two trials at the same time. The current projected start date for the next case is Friday, May 30th of 2025. The court will confirm the start date and last day issues at some point toward the end of the trial, this trial. It is further ordered affirming prior custody orders, and at 8:56 a.m. the matter concludes. So this was from, the March 18th hearing. That one was streamed, you're correct. And as I was going through it, I realized that this was the hearing that we did look at last time, but it's a little bit more specific about the dates and the timing for the trial. So I'm glad that I'm going to be there too. And I'm glad that I'm going to have some nice people, some reunions with some friends. The taxpayers do not have to cover her wardrobe. She is supposed to be allowed to appear in street clothes, but it's up to her to secure those clothing options. And so I'm guessing probably she's going to ask for some help from her family for that. Just catching up real quick. And this is a good answer. Northwest says, Jewel Gazer, most public defender's offices have a clothing closet. Most is donated or purchased at thrift stores. Lori's mom could also provide clothes, or her sister. So that's that. It is kind of gross that she gets to take advantage of this process and appear as an attorney before the court. But she does have her rights. And so I think it's important to honor those so that she gets a fair trial, so that there's less chance that there's going to be a successful appeal, so that justice can be served. So I wasn't really expecting to do this, but I think that I'll go through just a quick rundown of the timeline of events in the case, because I intended to do that before trial anyway. And I think it would be good for those of you who are coming to this part of the case if you knew about the her previous trial that was in 2023, right? And Chad's was in 2024. If you knew just about that trial, you might not have known some of the facts of this case. So I'm going to I've got some notes on the case summary. And so I'll just go over some of those for those of you who are new to the case and who may not know all of the facts and everything. So I'm going to try to do that while while I'm trying to answer questions here. Okay, so sort of a side topic. Have you watched Colby's interview with Nate Eaton? I did. I watched Nate Eaton's interview with Colby, and then I watched Colby's interview with Nate Eaton. I'm really glad that they got in touch with each other. I thought that was good. Thanks for this, dog mom. Watching you brings back memories of my sister that unfortunately I lost quite a few years ago, but you look just like her. You're beautiful, and it brings me joy to see you. Thank you. That's kind of you. Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick recap of the case, this part of the case. Okay, so back in 2018, Lori spent some time away. She kind of disappeared. She gave JJ to Charles to keep track of, and she was gone for, I think, 35 days or something like that. Eventually found out that she was in Hawaii with Tylee. And hey there, McSpunky. Good to see you. Northwest, you're right. 72 days. That's right. She left JJ with Charles, and she and Tylee spent some time in Hawaii and with some other friends. And at the time, I believe that Charles was wanting to file for divorce, and they were having a difficult time. I'm kind of like losing my thoughts as I'm trying to go through this, because then my brain goes in a bunch of different directions. And also I'm fuzzy on the timeline about Joe Ryan's death, but I know it was in 2018. I don't remember exactly when. I want to say probably June or July of 2018. And then we know that Lori and Chad met in person for the first time in the fall of 2018. And so back in January of 2019, Charles had filed for divorce. They were considering getting separated, but then they reconciled. And they were living together in Houston, but then Lori changed her mind. She decided that she was done with Charles. And while he was gone on a business trip, she took his truck that had been parked at the airport, and she emptied a bunch of money out of the business bank account. And this was around the time when she started telling Charles that he was Ned Schneider and all of the crazy things that she was saying. The thing that to me sticks out about the timeline of all of this is, just for me personally, 2019 was a really difficult time for me. It was part of my really difficult time. And so when I heard that, well, let me back up just a little bit. I think it was in February of 2019 that Lori basically said that she didn't care about Charles anymore, and she wanted to go ahead and proceed with the divorce proceedings. And so Charles goes ahead and files for divorce in February. And that was when Charles sought a protective order against Lori, so that he could, I mean, he was feeling obviously threatened by some of the crazy things that she was saying, and that he was possessed and all of that. But then he withdrew that petition for the protective order, saying that he wanted to try to make things work. But that was also when he changed the beneficiary on his insurance policy, was in February of 2019. So then I think Charles realized, or he found some evidence that Lori and Chad were having an affair. And so Gosh, sorry, you guys, my brain, my brain is not functioning. I wish I would have just like made some quick notes before I started this live. So I apologize, and thanks for being patient with me. So Charles had, I guess, had gotten wind that they were having an affair. He found that email that I think Lori had manufactured, an email where she wrote to Chad pretending to be Charles, asking Chad if he would write Charles's book or help Charles write his book or publish his book. And so Charles sent an email to Tammy to inform her that he believed their spouses were, having an affair. And we think that what happened is that Tammy opened the message and then deleted it and blocked Charles's email address. And on July 1st was when Charles told Lori that he planned to go meet up with Tammy in person and tell her about the affair. And at that point, by this time, Lori and Chad were already constantly texting each other. They were using those burner phones. So that's kind of what was happening leading up to that morning, the morning of July 11th, when Charles came to pick up JJ and take him to school. And then most of you guys probably know that there was an altercation. Alex was there. He wasn't really supposed to be there. And basically claimed self-defense, and so the police didn't hold them, did not hold Alex or Lori. So it was kind of weird for me, having kind of been separated from that part of the family. And this was in the summer of 2019, and I was on my way up to Rexburg, ironically, to visit my daughter. And I had planned to stay with Summer and see all of the family. It was a little bit towards, I think, the end of June when I was going up there. And after I got back, a couple days after I got back, is when I saw the Facebook message that Charles had died. And so I texted the family member who made that post and said, I'm so sorry what happened. I knew that Charles was healthy and relatively young. And so I was very, caught off guard, of course. It's something that I didn't expect. So when I texted her, and she responded and kind of told me the whole story of how Adam had gone into town. They were trying to do an intervention with Lori because of all the crazy things that she was saying, and that Adam had texted Charles. And Charles responded that Alex was at the house. And so I knew that Alex lived a short ways away from Lori, and I knew that he didn't really need to stay at her house for any reason. And this family member told me that Alex had just purchased a gun just a couple of weeks before. And so immediately I believed that it was not self-defense. Immediately I was thinking about Joseph Ryan. I was thinking about Alex's violent history with all of Lori's, not all, but a lot of Lori's, romantic partners or husbands. And so I definitely did not believe that it was an accident. I believe that it was not self-defense, and I believe that they planned it. And so that, I've talked about this before, like automatically sort of divided our family into two sides. And so, yeah, that was kind of the time frame. What was going on in my life at the time is that, man, it was 2019. This was when I was just finishing my intensive outpatient therapy. In fact, I finished my last few group sessions while I was on this trip via Zoom. And so, I was coming through my healing, but I still hadn't done EMDR on a lot of the really more traumatic things that had happened in my life. And so it was a really, really hard time for me. And I was not connected with that part of the family very much. So basically between the time that Charles was killed and the time that the kids were officially reported missing, this family member and I were communicating back and forth about the things that were being discovered and the things that were coming to light. And so that whole time, that whole entire fall of 2019, going into December, it was a very confusing, difficult time because I wasn't connected with a lot of the family, didn't know a lot of what was going on. And I was just checking news reports every day to see what else was unfolding. And it was really horrific to watch it unfold. So I suspect this too. Cute Texas Toad says that I suspect that Adam and the rest of Lori's family was well aware what Lori and Alex were planning with Charles. I don't think necessarily that Adam knew that they were planning on hurting Charles, but I certainly can say that, like the rest of the family, that at least had to be in their minds somewhere, because Lori was telling everybody that Charles was having an affair and that he was cheating on her. And so she had already begun the discard. And so I'm sure that the rest of the family knew, like, okay, here we go again through this process of, you know, Lori's done with her husband and she's going to tell all of us not to communicate with this person. And there's going to be some kind of final, you know, separation, divorce, whatever the case is. And maybe they were thinking that there would be another kind of ugly divorce / custody battle situation like there was with Joe. So I don't know how much the rest of the family knew. And that's why this court case, that's why this trial is so important to me, is because I do want to know what they knew and when they knew it and how much they participated and all of those other things. Yeah, intensive outpatient therapy was really, really good for me. I definitely needed it. I think that Adam probably was afraid that they were planning something, but of course, Lori would not have shared any of that information with Adam. And I think that who's the him divergent. Adam was there for the intervention with Charles, and Lori turned who against who to stop the intervention. Yeah, Adam came to town to support Charles and try to get help for Lori. And their plan was, they were really hoping that Lori's stake president would get involved and that they'd be able to take away her temple recommend. And they were hoping that that would sort of wake her up and snap her out of it and have her say, okay, these beliefs are not real, right? Miss Mojo Risen says, I just thought about this, the fact that this was a child exchange regarding Lori said to law enforcement, Alex being there after he attempted to hurt Joe Ryan. Yeah, it was exactly the same MO. So, yeah, I know Nate responded to, Nate has a video about the state's responses to the motions. And that's the last video that I did with Joe Schmo, where we went through all of the motions that Lori filed on the 18th and after, and we also went over the state's responses to those motions. So MB says, looking at the state's witness list, do you think you'll get those answers regarding who in the family knew what when? I do, because I think there's going to be a lot of data. I think there's going to be a lot of text messages and emails that get revealed about what communication was going on in the family. Yeah, I don't think that's the case. Adam was not against Charles. They were texting all the way up until the time when Charles pulled into the driveway to go pick up JJ. So Adam and Charles were very much in contact the entire time, and they were both planning to try and do an intervention with Lori. So Adam was very much on Charles's side. I think Lori definitely got Alex to be against Charles by using an affair story and also by using Chad's, theology of the dark, spirits inhabiting people. And this is, I agree with this. The Maryland pastor says there's so many people that could have stopped some, if not all, of these people from being unalived, and I agree with that. Zero says, considering that Chad gave Lori a story about not being allowed to get a divorce, I thought maybe he was planning her all along just to get with her, but then the unaliving, yeah, it's possible. Yeah, I agree with this. It's amazing how divorce is a no-no, but if you're killing zombies, then you're good. And this is true too. Money was part of the motive there as well. Yeah, it's possible. Miss Mojo says, I think Adam knows his sister, and the last minute caution backed away, giving him the benefit of the doubt. MB, I have no idea what Alex's IQ is. I didn't get the impression ever that he was very super smart, but he was loyal, fiercely loyal to Lori, obviously. Mick Spunky, that's dangerous to be into blonde goddesses. Oh, yeah. So Adam and Charles planned this intervention together. And I think that Summer and Lori and Alex knew about the intervention, and they were trying to stop it. And so there is that. It's, kind of time to Northwest. This is a family rumor. Summer confirms it, that Alex had a car accident when he was about 17 or 18. And Summer is the one who said, I believe, that Alex was never really the same after that. And I didn't know him well before he was 17. We didn't spend a lot of time together, just a little bit of time together. So I can't comment on that. But it's definitely possible that it's true, and that would explain a lot about his behavior and his inability to keep jobs for long terms, keep relationships for long terms. It definitely would explain a lot of his behavior. And I agree with you, Janelle. I think Chad and Lori did spiritually manipulate Alex through the blessing. Hi, Mimi of 8. Good to see you. Yeah, Alex was not supposed to be there that morning. According to what Charles understood, was it was just going to be Lori and the kids. He was just going to pick up JJ and take him to school. And that was it. That was supposed to be the extent of that visit. So, and Alex, who lived just a short ways away, there's really no reason for him to have spent the night at Lori's house and for him to be there. So that's why I say I believe it was premeditated. I believe that they set it up in advance. Krista Gardner, this is true. Hindsight is 2020, and what matters now is their actions now. Some have remorse and regret, and some probably feel no shame. I believe that that's true also. Lori does not have a high IQ. I don't know what her IQ exactly is, but if you pay attention to the way that she speaks and the way that she the words that she uses, the way that she writes, her intelligence is in how to manipulate people. It is not necessarily cognitive reasoning skills are not there. It's kind of like we've talked about in her motions, that she cites a case law and she cites a problem, but she doesn't ever find a way to make those two things match up. And so her reasoning abilities are not that great. TBI can change inhibitions. That's true. And MB says, after TBI, it makes me question his level of understanding. I have a kiddo right on the cusp. I worry every day about influences, outside influences. Yeah, question his level of understanding. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible if he had a TBI that would affect his reasoning as well. Um, hey, Diamond Dave, good to see you. Oh, cool, alive. Haven't heard that in quite a while. um, just reading through just to see if there are more questions, you guys. So thanks for being here and thanks for liking. Um, Adam and Alex supposed to, oh yeah, so Adam was supposed to stay with Alex when he came into town, and he was supposed to, Alex had offered for Adam to stay at his place, and then Alex stopped responding to Adam, and I figured that probably was around the time that they figured out that there was going to be some kind of intervention, and Alex stopped responding to Adam because Alex was team Lori all the way, right? So Raquel, there's nothing new, just recapping some timeline events for the trial coming up. So jury selection will start on the 31st, Monday. I will be there. They're going to be going over the jurors who can be excused for hardship or for other reasons, and then they'll start the in-person voir dire for the next 3 days. And then opening statements are scheduled to happen on the 7th of April, which is a Monday. So that's all we're doing was recapping timeline, and we're expecting for this trial to take a total of 4 weeks with jury selection, but there is that 4th week in April that court is going to be in recess. And so we expect this trial to wrap up probably the 1st week of May and the second trial to start on May 30th. So far, that's the timeline. What weapons did Alex have with him? Obviously the weapon that was used, but I'm confusing myself. There was more than one in his overnight bag. So when they searched his apartment in Rexburg later, there were lots and lots and lots of weapons there. I believe the only weapon present on July 11th of 2019 was the weapon that Alex used. I believe that was the only one there. I'm not sure exactly when the intervention was supposed to happen, but Charles and Adam were supposed to meet at noon on the 11th to discuss what was going to go on. And I think that they were planning to meet with either the bishop or the stake president that day as well. And then Adam didn't hear back from Charles, obviously. Carla says Adam wanted to stay at Alex's house, so Alex knew he was there. Also, her mom knew and Summer knew, right? So, yes, Alex knew that Adam was there, and also Janice and Summer knew that Adam had come into town. I'm sure Barry knew as well. And so that was the whole deal, is that they found out that Charles had flown Adam in, and they were kind of mad at Adam for trying to do some kind of an intervention with Lori. And then when Adam found out that Charles had been shot, he went to the Cox's household, kind of where everybody was gathering, and confronted everybody and said, like, this was not self-defense. And that was when Janice told Adam to leave and not to come back. So Lori has a limited toolkit. Hi, Ruth Heath. Good to see you. Lori has a limited toolkit of manipulation and overwhelming people with her personality. This isn't working for her anymore. And I agree with you. And I was watching the behavior analysts go over Lori's Dateline interview. And one of the things they pointed out is that people will continue to do the behaviors that have been successful in the past of getting them what they wanted. And I think what Lori found in that Dateline interview is that her previous behaviors of trying to be charming and flirty were not working for her anymore. And that was infuriating for her. And I think some of that is going to continue to go on in the courtroom as well. And that's going to be problematic. I think she's going to be angry about that. And the sad thing is that she thinks she's the smartest. Exactly. So there's that as well. Um, Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to go through and see for comments. Also, it's a Saturday here at my house, and normal life is going on. My kids and my dogs are all doing Saturday things. So apologize for the errant noises in the background. Do you think Cute Texas Toad says, do you think Lori's dad is helping her with her defense? I know her dad likes to defend himself in court. Well, he did. Yeah, he did go pro se in court. I do think he probably has given her some tips and, some potential arguments. But I'm not sure how much his involvement has been. So it'll be interesting if we get to know some of that information, if we're privy to that, Hey, thanks for the update here, Diamond Dave. Moving to Mongolia, April 16th. That's so exciting. I'm so happy for you. Yeah, Nicole, this is so true. With Lori, if you're not an enabler, it's really a loyalty issue, right? And mesh family systems have a really strong, overdeveloped sense of loyalty. And if you're not for Lori, you're against her. And if you're against Lori, you're an enemy. And so if you were not enabling Lori's bad behavior and her manipulation and her control, then you were in survival mode. And so everything that family members had to do around Lori, if they had what they had to do was to survive. And that was basically, everybody was in survival mode. So that is super important to understand. The behavior of all the people around Lori is that if you didn't enable her, then she would discard you as well. So Ms. Mojo says, do you think Lori was tapped into Charles's phone somehow? I don't necessarily think so. I don't think that she was technologically savvy. So I doubt it, but I think that she probably did have his passcode. I think she probably was able to see his text messages and other things. So I think that's the only shenanigans that were going on there, but I could be wrong. Yeah, Zero. I think there was an aspect of Alex that, like, all of us were raised to believe that the church was true. And so I think that there was a part of Alex who really wanted to be acceptable in the church culture and who really did believe that his, eternal salvation, everything in heaven, him being in heaven was contingent upon his, keeping the commandments. And I think that was one of the ways that they were able to take advantage and manipulate. He really did want to be a man of God, but he was excommunicated twice because he couldn't keep the Mormon rules. And so I think that it's important to point that out for sure. And sorry, just looking for some more questions here. Yeah, Alex had 3 torches in Zulema's house. That was weird, right? Very strange. Yes, I have seen that Jody Hildebrandt wants to get out of prison early, just related to Lori in the way that I think Jody, she tried to be really, to show contrition during her sentencing. She pled guilty because she knew it would get her a lesser sentence. And then during her sentencing, she tried to say how much she loved the kids and how she hoped they would heal. But then her jailhouse phone calls, and her journals and Ruby's journals reveal she still really believes that kids are evil and they can be evil. So it's, she's wanting to get out of prison early. I certainly hope that she doesn't. So. I don't think that Adam shifted against Charles. I don't think he shifted against Charles at all, to be honest with you. Carolina says Lori uses case laws literally. after she uses hers. There aren't valid arguments to match up with them. The thing is that, yes, you can cite case law in your motion, right? But it's kind of like when she accused the state of, so sorry, my brain is slow right now. She accused the state of distributing her confidential communications with her appeals attorney from Idaho. And she cited case law where the state is not allowed to do that. But then she never came back and matched up the argument to say, this case law goes directly with this complaint that I have, because her argument was not a cohesive argument. It didn't match the case law that she was citing, if that makes sense. The information that she was alleging was confidential was just her attorney trying to get his phone number recognized as a private, like a phone number that the prison wasn't going to record because it was an attorney phone number. That's all it was. It wasn't work product. It wasn't strategy. It wasn't anything really confidential. I don't know if this is true. Mel Mack, his ex-wife called law enforcement to share her worries about Adam. I think his ex-wife called law enforcement to share her worries about Alex and about Lori. So I don't think that Adam's ex-wife called law enforcement to share her worries about Adam. Krista says, am I in the minority for thinking that Adam is not responsible in any of this? I think that Adam did what he could at the time with the information that he had. And I think the trial is going to show us more about Adam's actions. And so I think it's important for us to get all of the information. Also, we can armchair quarterback what we might have done in that situation, because we've seen the conclusion of everything that happened. So it's easy for us to do that. In the moment, I can't imagine having to be confronted with the reality of those facts and go through it in person and make, good decisions. If you're in an enmeshed family and you're in a high demand religious system, what is going to be number one to you is going to be your religion and then your family system. And so all the concerns of like morality and ethics and all of those other things are subservient to the religion and the family system. So it's a very difficult mindset to be in and to break out of. So I don't think, I'm just not ready to make that sort of a judgment at this moment. I'm waiting for the evidence from the trial. Northwest, my guess after the first week of trial, Lori will just sit at the table and pout, not saying anything. I kind of doubt that that's true, honestly. I think probably what's going to happen is she's going to get very frustrated with not being able to get her way. I think she's probably going to raise a bunch of objections that will get overruled or dismissed. And then I think she's just not going to be able to handle being shut down that way in public. And she's probably going to end up losing her temper at some point. And my prediction is that probably at some point the judge is going to remove her ability to represent herself for those reasons. Thank you, Miss Mojo, for being a member for 8 months. I appreciate you and all the members who support me. Thanks for being here, everybody. Divergent says, so Alex and the family told Lori the intervention was going to happen, and she unalived Charles before the meeting happened that day. I believe that is kind of how it went. Yes, this is true, Dr. Steve. Adam, we've talked before about how Adam was a primetime DJ, and they had a contest called Hold Your Wee for a Wee, and there were several contestants who were trying to see, how long they could hold it so they could win that Wii entertainment system. And one of the women participating in the contest got hyperhidrosis, which is what can happen to you if you drink a lot of water and then don't pee. Basically, too much of your bloodstream becomes water, basically, and she ended up dying. And Adam and his team ended up getting fired for that. And I think, if I remember correctly, Web Sleuths does a really good unpack on this, because it really should be the producers and the people running the radio show that vet these contests and have somebody review whether or not they're safe to participate in. And so while he participated in that, he was not the only one, and he was not the only one at fault. Yeah, so Lori's looks helped when she was younger too. And so, yeah, I think she has relied a lot on her looks and a lot on, her charm to get her way. And now that her looks are fading a bit and she is not quite as charming, she's not able to be quite as charming, because I think so many of her defense mechanisms are getting in the way, and it's not working for her anymore. Cat Lady, thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your support. Thank you so much for that. What was the conflict between Lori and her former attorneys? Well, I believe that it was that they wanted her to go through the Rule 11 process to see if she was competent to stand trial, and she did not want to go through that process, and they pushed her through it. And so I think when she finally got through that process and she was deemed competent, she was like, that's it, I don't want these guys on my team anymore. She doesn't want a repeat of her 2023 trial, where the attorneys in their closing statements threw Chad under the bus. I think she wants to do things her way, and she doesn't like to be told what to do. And I think that was the main crux of the conflict. And Raquel, thanks for saying this. Please, people, let's give Adam a little bit of grace. He was the only one who didn't fall in all of Lori's goddess status, and his son, and Brandon were the only ones who called Lori on her BS. So I agree with that. Yeah, Lori never had a problem with divorce. It was Chad who said that, what did he say? Glorified beings or something like that, translated beings, can't be involved in a divorce. I don't know, something like that. One thing that was mentioned was how still Lori was sitting during a police interview. These days, she said she didn't know she was being filmed. That gives me the chills. Her mask was off. Yeah, so after she did her interview in Chandler and the detective left the room, she just sat very, very still. And to some people, they're like, well, why is that a big deal? Just her ability to be so calm and unemotional, considering the circumstances that she was under at the time. Give me 1 second, you guys, just 1 sec. Hang on. Okay. All right, guys, thank you. Just had to do a mom thing real quick. Only a Sith deals in absolutes, which I always find really funny and ironic, because this statement is an absolute. So anyway, yeah, it's typical with a narcissistic family member. They were always the center of everything, and everybody else was sort of, everybody else changes their behavior to satisfy the narcissistic family member. So oh, okay. So Kiko Jump says, I only mentioned Jody because I think she's copying some of the things that Lori and Chad did. And I agree with you. There's a video where I do, with John DeLynn, we do a parallel comparison between Lori and Ruby Frankie, and how they were really on the same page with a lot of things. And of course, all three of them were visions of glory devotees, basically. And we know Jody Hildebrandt was also meeting with Tom Harrison, was a colleague of Tom Harrison, who was the Spencer in the Visions of Glory book. So we know that Jody and Ruby and Lori are tied together by Visions of Glory and Tom Harrison. So Lou says, do you think Lori will follow through representing herself the entire trial? Do you think she could turn over her case to the assistant counsel when she realizes she's losing and overwhelmed? She could ask for that to be turned over, and the judge did make clear that if she wasn't able to handle the procedures and if she wasn't able to behave appropriately, that he would remove her as, pro se and reassign her to her advisory council. And then he said, you can't go back and relitigate anything after that, and you can't appeal based on ineffective counsel after that. Random old lady says, do either of Lori's parents feel any kind of guilt behind all of this mess? I have no idea. I haven't talked to either one of them. It'll be interesting to see if they do show up. Lori has put them both on the witness list for her case, for her part of the case. So it'll be interesting to see what they have to say. So there's that. One big doodle. Thank you. Appreciate it. I love you guys. I'm grateful that you're here. And I'm grateful that I'm able to help answer some of your questions. I don't know everything, but I do know some things. I think we went over trial time frame already. A week for jury selection, 2 weeks for the prosecution to present their case, a week of recess, and then 2 weeks for Lori to present her case, I believe is what that's going to happen. Ruth Heath says, how traumatic do we think it will be for witnesses to be questioned by Lori? I know that the judge and prosecutors will try to keep things moving, but even still, so I'm just thinking about the people on the prosecution list, a lot of law enforcement people, and probably have a lot of animosity towards Lori because of, everything that they had to go through, and they've seen what the victims have gone through in this case. And so I'm sure there's going to be some anger and hostility there. So yeah, just lots of questions about how that's going to go. I don't know how people are going to feel about being questioned by Lori, except for Kay. She has said she's ready and she is looking forward to it. So, Young Black Economist, thanks for being a member for 2 months. Appreciate it. So MB says, so if she was right about those turned over communications, a real attorney would fight that competently. She can't. Yeah, but also she was trying to argue that it was confidential communication between her and her attorney. And actually the exhibits that she put forward on that motion were communications between her attorney and the sheriff's office, not between Lori and her attorney. So there was nothing there. It was a nothing burger, basically. So definitely premeditated, Gina Vey, I agree with you. Carolina says, Lori is taking all of this personally. In my opinion, Judge Boreski isn't going to be too happy with Lori. I agree. He's not going to put up with her BS. He has been really patient with her, but he has also called her out on a lot of things as well. So, just making sure to see if there are any more comments and questions here, you guys. Thanks for being here. I appreciate your support. I agree with this, Carla. Adam made the mistake to ask Alex, or to ask Alex if he could stay with Alex, but I don't think that Adam ever expected Charles would be killed, and I agree with you there. I don't think that Adam believed that that was in the cards. I do remember him saying, be careful. What is Alex doing there? Be careful. They must be planning something, but I'm sure that Adam didn't, if Adam believed that Alex was going to do something to hurt Charles, Adam would have said something, right? I don't think he ever thought that they would actually unalive somebody. I think he probably is the most sane in the family. You also have to remember, coming from a family like that, with so many problematic behaviors, you're not going to get out of there unscathed. Everybody is going to come out of there with wounds of some kind. That certainly was true in my family of origin as well. I think that the other people in the cult should be held accountable as well, but the likelihood of successfully prosecuting other people is not very high, and so most likely that's not going to happen. And yeah, this is true. When you're in a family, Eleanor Nelson says, when you're in a family where morality is questionable, it's harder to do good. So very true. Yeah, I agree with this. Axel the car guy, this will be a circus. I think when Kay gets on the stand, Lori will be at her worst. She's going to act out verbally. She'll most likely launch into her strange belief system. And I agree with you. And yes, what about Summer's involvement? I definitely want to know how involved she was. And I think this trial will reveal that. Okay, just looking for a few more questions here. Hopefully you guys called attention to your questions so that I could see them. I'm trying to get through these quickly so that I can be done. I had an hour goal in mind, and we're almost there. So I just want to answer these last few questions. Lori did try to have Kay removed from the state's witness list. She did not want Kay in court, but her motion was unsuccessful. And I believe it was unsuccessful. The state filed a response to that motion, and so far the judge has not said that Kay is going to be removed from the witness list. There's no reason to have her removed. Jesus is her co-counsel. Hey, Big Doodle, thank you. Thanks so much for the super sticker. I appreciate it. The detective that interviewed Lori and the detective that interviewed Tylee was a woman, and I think that is her jam, to manipulate men. She has a harder time manipulating women, and so I think she feels threatened by a lot of women. There have not been any rulings on the newest motions yet. I believe that the judge probably will present those in the morning, just prior to jury selection. So this is a good rule of thumb, Tim Rathbone. Always assume you're being recorded when you're anywhere in public. True. Adam, and yeah, so when Adam didn't hear back from Charles at noon that day, he and his son, Zach, went to visit Adam's friend in Tucson, which is I believe, about 90 minutes southeast of Phoenix. And so, yeah, they were, I believe they were on their way to Tucson or in Tucson later that day, but not that morning. That morning, I think Adam was with Zach in Phoenix or in the Chandler area, basically. Okay, I'm trying not to read every single comment here, guys. I'm just trying to skip through and look for questions. So I apologize if you make a comment that I missed, or if you have a question that I've already missed. Please call attention to it with some emojis or something else so that I can visually just see it. I agree. The judge, Rebecca B, said the judge is so calming. He is. I really like his voice, and he seems very even-keeled and very peaceful. Yeah, Cindy Leavitt says Lori was okay to go all over national TV with Keith Morrison, but then tried to block cameras in the courtroom playing games. Exactly. She only wants to have the camera when she can be in charge of it or in control of it, or at least think. Yeah, I don't think we'll get all the answers, not even in this trial, but I'm here for the answers that we do get. I think that's what's important to me is to get as many answers as we can, and then I can let part of my brain rest for a little while. Yes, we will all be standing behind Kay in spirit when it's her turn. I've only got 2 more sleeps before I'm in Phoenix. That's so true. Yeah, I do think, Maria Howard, that they're going to address some of these motions just prior to jury selection. So, and this is true. It's really hard to see the dysfunctional family dynamics when you're still in the family and you still need things from the family. So that's difficult. I mean, obviously, THX 1138, I obviously think she's guilty. I don't, there's no doubt in my mind about whether or not she's guilty. What the doubts that in my mind are how involved the rest of the family members were and exactly what went on. So, just checking for some more questions. Thank you for your support, everybody, and for your kindness. Yeah, I'm interested to see the texts that were deleted from the phone, allegedly. Yeah, and this is the hard part for law enforcement, was that they had 3 witnesses with pretty much the same story, even though there were some holes in it and some generalizations, especially when you go back and look at Lori's interview. She's very general about the things that should have been really specific in her mind. So, yes, I'm annoyed that she is trying to cause grief for Nate Eaton. She just doesn't want him in the courtroom because she's mad at him. And so hopefully he'll be able to get that subpoena quashed. Carolina asks, knowing Janice and the Coxes, do you think they have struggled with survivor's guilt about Charles, Tylee, and JJ? I don't know. In my experience, they have tended to be very self-absorbed. And so I would be surprised to find that they were feeling guilt of any kind, but it would be nice to hear some of that from some of them. Lori's family did know about the light and dark system. At least Summer did, for sure. And so I don't know what their reaction was to some of that. So, Zero, I do have some ways of how you can cleanse your mind. I actually do a lot of meditation. And one of the things that I like to do is put on an audiobook with a calming voice, reading something from philosophy, or I really, really like the Tao Te Ching. That helps me kind of recenter myself. And so just finding some reading material or listening material that resonates with your truest, highest self, and sort of putting that on while you do some deep breathing can really help you get all of this poisonous material out of your brain. So I wish you the best of luck with that. I don't think there's anyone who's expected as a witness but not on the list. They've both issued their lists, and I don't think they can call anybody else without, filing some more motions and things like that. Janice is Lori's mother. She's my aunt. Cheryl says, I definitely hope they do not give Lori a pen while she's in court interviewing witnesses. I'm afraid for Kay. She's not going to be allowed to approach the witnesses, I don't believe. The judge told her she could be at her desk or at the podium, and that's it. And she will be wearing a shock belt under her clothes. So Janice is my aunt, not my great aunt. Janice is my dad's sister. So yeah. Sonic bathing music is great for calming down. Yeah, and there's a lot of really good meditative music and things like that here on YouTube. So we're at 1 hour and 4 minutes. I want to say thank you to everybody for being here. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Thank you to those of you who donated super stickers, and thank you to those of you who are members and supporting the channel financially. I do also have a Venmo if anyone wants to support the channel financially. And I have a Patreon, which I will put over here in the chat for you guys. I am going to have a Patreon members only live tomorrow where I am going to go through the text messages that I exchanged with my family member. And hopefully that will give you guys some insights into a little bit more of how the case unfolded and what was going on in my world when all of this was going on. I said I was going to put the Patreon. It's in the description. So go to the description. That'll be the place to find it. So Erin, just this last question. I was trying to figure out if she was your aunt or your father's aunt, but your father is her younger brother. That's correct. My father is Janice's younger brother, so that makes her my aunt. That makes Lori my first cousin. And yeah, I spent a lot of time with the Cox family when they lived in San Antonio. So I spent a lot of time around my aunt and uncle for a long time, and I'm really grateful to be distanced from them now. So definitely appreciate you guys being here. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And I will see you again tomorrow for the Patreon members only live. And then on Monday morning, I will probably do a members only live from the courthouse. When I get there, I'm going to be getting there very early. It's not supposed to start until 10:30 Phoenix time, which is 12:30 Central time, but I will be there very early. And so I'll do a little members only live at the courthouse when I get there. And then, of course, on the breaks and at the end of the day is when I'll be doing recaps for the general, my general subscribers here on the channel. So appreciate you guys for being here, and I hope you have a great day. Take care of yourself.